So that was the super
incredible.
cool thing, right? So I ended up working with her husband, Travis. I got a call from another guy in the WWE. His name's Roderick Strong. And I had worked with his wife, Marina Schaefer, who was Ronda's roommate. So I flew out to California. Unfortunately, it was right. I was supposed to meet Ronda at that time. And unfortunately, she had just lost a Holy Home. So I ended up not getting to meet her. But I ended up working with all these other people and connected into some of the people from the WWE as well. So Travis had ankle surgery, Ronda's husband. He was a top 5 heavyweight fighter in the UFC as well. And so I got a call from Roderick, and basically he's like, hey, do you think maybe, you'd be interested in working with Ronda and Travis? Travis just had surgery. I know you just moved out to California. And I was like, what, are you kidding me? Of course, this is like a huge opportunity. He's like, okay, well, I'll hook you up with their number and stuff, and you guys can talk to them and get this thing, figured out. So basically at first I ended up working with Travis on his ankle surgery, and everything was going great. And Ronda at the time was preparing for WrestleMania, which was the cool thing because it was the first time the women had ever headlined WrestleMania, right? And it was coming up. And she just in general had kind of voiced to me like, hey, I'm really banged up, my body's hurting, I'd like to do some work with you, to try to feel a little bit better. So we did some kind of like foo-foo massage and feel good stuff basically up until the time that until she ended up getting injured. So I didn't really know that she had the ACL tear until later. And the cool part about that for me was that if Hines Ward would be an example that people know of, especially in my world. He played his whole entire NFL career without having an ACL. And they have a name for that. It's called a coper. So you have a coper and a non-coper. So what a coper is somebody that's able to continue to play sports at a competitive level without having their surgical reconstruction done, right? So when I was coming through, that was when all the research was coming out on how these people were able to do this. And then, surprisingly enough, like we just said, it all comes back to them having basically a better nervous system. Right, their nervous system functions at a higher level. They're more coordinated. Their body awareness is better. So they end up being able to keep their body in the correct position without needing that ligament. And when you think about it on our end, biomechanically, it's really crazy because when you see your average person with an ACL tear, they just can't function. Right. So to imagine that somebody's going to be able to do that is amazing. So then Ronda ends up breaking her hand in WrestleMania. Right. And she ends up basically, having a pin put in it, and they call me up and they're like, hey, guess what? Ronda needs therapy, perfect. I've been coming out here working with Travis. So we get started on I think it was her right hand first. And then right as soon as we got finished, I think it was August, we had just basically been finishing up the rehab for her right hand. And her big thing was she wanted to be able to punch and hit the bag again and grapple. And basically she, was on a set for, I think it's called Fox 911, and she was doing a stunt on a boat. I don't know if you saw that show where they made it like they flooded the Santa Monica Pier. It was a pretty cool, looking thing. And she was a firefighter in the show, and she was climbing up onto a boat. And as she climbed up onto this boat, it was tipped on its side. She grabbed like where the door was, and the door handle came down onto her hand and severed her finger. Yeah, it was nasty.
Like gone off.
Like almost like hanging by a thread, like literally hanging by the one tendon. So that's what I get the next morning, right? I wake up to this text
like a hot dog.
with her holding her finger. Yeah. And it's like literally like hanging like this, I posted it on my Instagram and stuff. You guys could find that picture. Right. Yeah. It was nasty. So then I ended up spending the next, basically the rest of the time up until COVID, rehabbing her and working with her. Yeah. You know what that is? No. It didn't change anything for us at all. Right. Yeah. And Ronda, the interesting thing about her, she's a very big, like doomsday kind of prepper type of person. And, she has a year's worth of supplies at her house and everything. And so when this all happened, she just kind of shut everybody out and said, hey, I'm going to take my time away and try to stay healthy and And the cool part is she was pretty much at the end of her rehab process with me anyways. So
Do you have her address just in case anybody wants to?
yeah, here it is. Right here. I got her phone number.
Use those supplies.
Right.